Hello and welcome back to the Mega Man-like miniseries. Today we're going to be connecting our scenes together using portals. Specifically, we're going to be using slide link portals, and I'm going to be doing it in a troubleshooting manner. That way we can see what we can do with issues that may arise. These slide links are very particular, and so your level design needs to be very specific in order to make them work properly. But when they do work properly, they definitely look like a traditional Mega Man-like scene transition or even a Zelda-like scene transition if you're using top-down. And so with that said, let's get started. All right, so here in the scenes tab, I have a total of 4 scenes that we're going to connect together. And this is the original scene that we've been using for the tutorial so far. Then I have another scene that's a 1x1. I have another scene that's a 1x2, and the starting portion is going to be on the top portion of the scene. And then I have another one that's a 1x2, but the starting portion is on the bottom. All right. And so this will give us enough troubleshooting for this video. There might be other videos that will come out for some other things like transferring via ladder climbing or via falling, but this will give a good general basis on slide links. All right, so let's connect these. If you're not familiar with connecting scenes, it's in the transition tab here. There are 2 types of scene connections. There is a screen flow, which I have a video on. It's totally separate from portals. And then there is a portal transfer. And so you can see that the list is empty. We do not have a portal transfer, so I'm going to right click and add a portal. Now we can rename this. We can say this is from scene 1, and this is going to be a bidirectional scene, meaning that we can go from scene 1 to scene 2 and also from scene 2 to scene 1. So usually I just like to say with the arrows showing that it can go either way. And then we're going to go to scene 2. So we have a scene 1 bidirectional to scene 2. And here is where you set up what scene it actually is. So I'm going to select from the list and select scene 1. The important thing is to select from the proper layer. So since the object is on the player layer, it's only going to register this portal's touched on that layer. So we need to select the player layer. All right. We'll get into these just here in a little bit, but now I want to set the B portion. The A portion is where you're going from, and then the B portion is where you're going to. So we're going to go to scene 2, and this is also, we want it to be, to land basically in the player layer. And so if we zoom out here, we can see our scene actually of scene 1. And if we zoom out here, we can see our scene 2. So everything is working great so far. Let's see some other options here. These 2 arrows right here, these represent if it's a one-way, if it, like for instance, now that they're unhighlighted, no portals will work. If I select just one, this blue one, that means that it's a one-way going from scene 1 to scene 2. And if I select this arrow, meaning it's going to be a one-way from scene 2 to scene 1. Now, a one-way setup with this arrow would be kind of interesting. Normally, you would just do a one-way, and it would be something like this. And you'd have just separate ones for that one-way. But this is going to be bidirectional, like we said, so we're going to go like this. Now, down here, this is going to be the player's appearance position. This is important for matching the Y. So for instance, we're in a side view. So the most important thing to match right now is the Y, because if you're up in the air, you want, this is the Y coordinate right here that my mouse is moving up and down on. And so you want the Y to equal the Y going into the next scene. So we want to match the Y, and we want to match that Y when it goes back. And then we want the input to go to scene 2 to be when the right, or the appearance, sorry, the moving setting for moving again after appearance, we want it to be facing right. And then on this one, we want it to be facing left because we're going to be going into scene 1. So really, if you just look at it from this one goes this way and then this one goes this way, these options will make a lot of sense. So now let's set up the portal. And the portals are very specific in the sense that it is generally best practice to make them the same size. All right, so we're going to size these the same. I'm going to give them the size of a tile. So the X is going to be 16, but the Y can be as long as you need it. So I'll give this 90. And then we're just going to place this. I'm just going to make this black border match this other black border and put it against the scene as close as possible. So that looks good right there. So now we're going to go to this portal as well, and we're going to give it the same thing. The X is going to be 16 and the Y is going to be 90. All right. And now that they're the same size, we should not run into any issues. And I'll explain why here in a second. First off, I want to say what triggers the portal. All right. If you go to your animation, the origin, which we have set to center, so where the Y and the X red lines intersect right here, the origin, that is what dictates if that object is touching a portal or not. All right. So this is going to be very simple to do in this case. Sometimes with top down view, where your origins are usually at the feet, that's where you could run into some troubles. If you're going towards a upward facing portal, you might need to make that upward facing portal a little wider down, or a little higher, I guess, downward. That way it gives you room to have that origin touch the portal and activate it. All right, so let's go back to here. So again, size is very important. And here's the reason why the size is important. Because when the object hits that portal, it's going to start transferring towards the center of the portal. So if this one is a little different size, the center is going to be in a little different place. Now, because we're matching the Y, it's not going to be very noticeable where it's trying to go to. But if you weren't matching or anything like that, you would notice that it's trying to go to the center of that portal. So by keeping them the same size, you avoid any kind of issues like that where you're offsetting just a little bit. Because even if this was a little different size like this, it might offset differently. And when you go to the next scene, you might have a little fall before you land, something like that. General best practice is to keep these the same size. All right. So now with this said, now that we have these set up, we have the portal sizes adjusted and in place, we can now go to the settings. So we have an A-B setting. This is going to be what happens when you go from A to B. And then we have a BA setting, which is going from B to A. All right. So most of these settings right here, this top portion, this setting for move sequence and this setting for move sequence right here, these are found in the screen flow video that I have. So if you really want more specifics on these, watch that video. I go into the specifics. We're just going to kind of see the basics, and mostly we're just going to focus on this option right here called slide link. Now, what slide link is going to do is it's going to connect the rooms, and it's going to move them together as if they were one, but yet it's going to take you to the next scene. And so you need to select, notice that there is a slide up, slide down, slide left, slide right, and then there's a slide up link, a slide down link, a slide left link, and a slide right link. The links are the ones that are going to look like it's one. So since we're going to be going right, if we are A to B, we're going to select the screen to move left, because that's the direction that we want it to go. We also want to give it a little bit of time. We'll say 0.5. That should be good. All right. And that's really all we need to do. We can actually, you can specify the B to say right, slide link right, but you can also just go here and you can say apply the same setting for BA. And what it's going to do, it's going to flip that link, and it will make the BA be a right slide. So it will automatically do it for you. So this is literally all we have to do to set up the actual slide link. So we could test this right now. All right. So when we move over, it slides that way. And when we move left, it slides back. All right. Looks really good. Okay. So room 1 to 2 is complete. Now let's move on and let's do scene 2 here to scene 3. All right. And we're just going to set it up as we would normal, like we wanted to. And we're going to see what happens and how to fix it. So the cool thing about these portals here is you can come grab them, copy paste, and we can say scene 2. It's going to be a bidirectional to scene 3. And so we're going to select scene 2. We're going to select scene 3. We're going to make sure that we change the layers, because when you select a new scene, it just defaults the layer to the topmost layer. And everything else should be fine. The only thing that we got to do is just place the portals a little differently. All right, so this looks good, and that looks good. That looks about like where we want it. The settings are the same, so we could literally just test this, and we can start to see. So we'll do the first one right here, and then we'll go through the next one, and we'll start to see an issue. And that is that the camera is now free to roam. So for instance, right here in the 1-to-1 scene, it's stuck. And right here, it's a 1-by-2. So it's not or it doesn't have that extra scene height. So it transfers fine. But once we go to a scene that now has an extra scene height, the camera can now adjust to the center, and it makes it have that camera jolt right when you go. And then when you go back, there's that little black space because there's nothing technically there in the scene slide. So this is not something that is an issue with the slide link. This is actually more an issue with our level design. All right, so we're going to fix this through level design. And so we're going to go to our scenes here. And so what we need to do is, since this is obviously too low and it's making the camera go to the center of our player as soon as we enter, which is more right here. So the camera is literally centering on our player as soon as we enter. We're going to make it to where the camera will stay in this section by actually making the transfer higher. All right. So let's go to scene 2 here. And what we're going to do is we're going to use some tiles here. And we'll go about right there. So then we'll come down just like that. And then we're going to use our awesome ladder that we made. And we're going to make a ladder right here. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to use this tool right here. It's E on the keyboard here. Sometimes the shortcuts don't work, just so you know. I'm going to select all of this right here, and I'm going to copy it. And then I'm going to go to scene 3, and I'm going to paste it. And I'm going to go like this. This is just going to let me know how high I need to go. And so actually, I really didn't need the ladder, although I'll select it again, and I'll just move it because we can actually use that. And then I'll move this over here. I'll use my draw tool now to actually grab the correct tiles. And then we'll use E again to select this. Now, if I select it like, if I have that extra thing like that, it's going to, oh, I guess that worked. Oh, we're on the above layer. So see, this is already wrong. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go to player. What I meant is that it's going to start deleting the tiles, and that's exactly what it did. And we're going to put it where it was at, and then we're going to go back to the above layer and delete it. And so obviously, if I did that there, then I did that right here. So above layer, copy, put that on the player layer, because restrictions don't matter on the on a different layer. So we had to put them on the player layer. I'm also going to grab these, and I'm going to make them all sides wall detection. All right, so now we got all sides right there. And then here's our scene 3. Now we're going to go back to the transition here. We're going to grab our portals. We're going to drag them up and put them on the top of this portal, or this tile right here. So now we can play test, and we can go through this first scene here. We can now go up and transfer to the next scene, and you can see that the camera didn't jolt down like it did. All right, so that was a level design solution. Most of your link issues are going to be level design solutions. All right, so now let's make the next scene here from scene 3 to scene 4. And we'll be able to see another issue here. So let's do this. Scene 3 to scene 4. So scene 3 on the player layer to scene 4 on the player layer. We're going to drag this down. We're going to go just to the default position currently, and drag this one all the way down here. All right, and instead of walking through all these scenes, I'm actually just going to start us on this scene and throw in the player object. All right, so now that we, oh, wrong layer. There we go. All right, so now when we transfer, we can see that we saw that black again because the camera didn't know how to adjust to it. And you can see that we have that same jolt. So you might be thinking, well, we could just do this solution that we used here. And let's try that so we can see exactly what happens. We're going to go to tiles, go to the E, select this, go to this one. Oh, that must have been on the wrong layer. There we go. Player. Okay, select it. Go to 3. We're on the player layer. Boom. Then we can grab this. By the way, transferring tiles like this is super easy. once you get the hang of it. And then we'll just transfer it like this. We'll go to the transition. We'll move these up like we did on the other one. Not going to make them. I think this one just needs to go over just one. All right, there we go. And now we'll see this solution worked on that side. Let's see if the solution works on this side. And we can see, what did I do there? Oh, I know what it is. All right, so I'm having a real hard time keeping track of my layers. All right, I put it on the wrong layer again. All right, so now we can go up and you can see that it didn't quite work, okay? One, we got a camera jolt, or the camera jolt going this way. And then this one, we have that black space because the scene doesn't technically exist there. And so what usually happens if you need these interesting transitions where you're going from one angle, or one area to another area that's on completely different sides of the scene, you might need a interim scene. And if you think about it, Mega Man had some areas where you would just go down and you would literally, it was just one scene and it was just to take you to another little section to fall down or something. And you can think of it like that. You need to create a joint scene, something that connects it so that it will connect it evenly. So how can we use that solution here? First off, I'm going to delete this ladder stuff because we're actually just going to leave it flat. All right, so I'll come here and delete this one as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to create another interim scene. And so what we're going to do is create this this scene right here. And we'll just copy, paste it. And we'll do, like, let's say a 3.1. So scene 3.1. And actually, I guess we did need to keep this. Let's see, player right here. I guess we did need to keep this ladder thing because we do need to make the connection the same from 3 to 3.1. So yeah, we do need to still keep this. So we'll go like this. And we'll move this over and move this one. Whoops. Yeah, just like that. And we'll use the right one. And this is unnecessary, but I'll just do it just to, it's kind of nice. One trick, I don't know if, I see a lot of people clicking this, but if you say you had this one in your painting and you didn't like it, you can literally right click on a blank tile and then you can start deleting it. You don't have to select erase or anything like that. You can just click off like right here and then start to delete. So you could be pasting and then you're like, oh, I don't like that, and then just delete them. You will have to select the tile over again though. All right, so let's go back to scene 3 here. And sorry, this is probably a little confusing for everybody, but basically I did need the proper exit on this one. But now we've got our little interim scene right here. All right, so we can go to transitions. And so now instead of going from 3 to 4, we're going to go to 3.1 in the player because we need this interim scene. All right, so now if we play, we can go up, we can go across. We went to our interim scene, and now we can go from scene 3.1 to 4. All right. So 3.1 to 4. And so now we're going to have something interesting happen as well, but there is a solution to this one that is not necessarily level design, but it's going to be in the scene settings. All right, so let's see. We have everything set up. You can see how fast it is to set them up once you get used to it. So we slide right here, we go down, and now we're going to go to that scene 4. You can see a couple things. It kind of jolted up, and then there was the black spacing in the bottom. All right, so we need to solve that. Let me first explain what's going on here. All right, so in the 1x1 scene, let me turn off my restrictions here. You can see that the scene is perfectly grid on the width of it, but it's not a perfect grid on the height. And what I mean by that is at the very bottom here, you can see that it's only a quarter of a tile when the resolution is done for this, okay? So this is a quarter. Now, if we go to scene 4 and we go down to the bottom with a 2 high scene, you can see that the scene, which is this dashed orange line right here, the scene is half now. So it doesn't cut the scenes up consistently when you're adding scene heights or things like this. So what we have to do is we need to do some math, and we need to bring up the camera a little bit. All right. So we know that it's about a quarter, and how you can really know is you can just bust open a calculator, and you can say, okay, I have my screen resolution height is 180, and then you can say that we're going to divide it by 16 tiles, because that's what this particular tile size is. So you would divide it by the tile size, and so we can see that it's going to give you 11 tiles, 0.25, so a quarter of a tile. And so now what we need to find out is how much a quarter of a tile is. So we can go like this, and we can say, okay, we have 16, and then we're going to times it by 25, and we're going to equal, and it's going to be 4. All right, so we know that this is spaced, or sorry, that 4 pixels is going to be 1/4 of a tile. Now that was pretty obvious if you think about 16, 4 times 4 is 16, but just so how you could figure out any tile size, just to show you. Okay, so now that we know that it's basically 4 pixels off, what we can do is we can go to scene 4 and go to scene settings, go to the area that the camera has access to, and we can just bump it up by 4 pixels. And by up, I mean lower the number, which is going to raise the camera area. You can see, I don't know if you can see on the video very well, but you can see that I raised it up just a little bit. All right, so 4 pixels, we're going to hit OK. And now we're going to test this again. And we're going to see that now it transitions perfectly. All right. So that one didn't really require a design solution, but it did require some manipulating with the accessible area by the camera. So I feel like this is a good introduction to slide links, how they work, and then some things to consider. The level design that might be required to make the slide link look good as it goes from scenes, and then also just some simple scene settings that you can do to make it also look good. I don't think this will be the only video I do on slide links. I think there is a lot to go over, at least that I'm finding as I'm making this actual game. And so, yeah, if there's any questions, we got comments, Discord, Steam forums. And with that said, I'll see you at the next video.